Skinny Bob, the mythical footage of a supposed captured alien living among us. For more than 10 years, the controversy has lingered. Our hypothesis? This is a hoax, a very good one at that. So buckle up and let's dive in.
Introduction.
Before we start with the footage, there are a few things we should establish. Firstly, I am no debunker. In fact, I wrote a UFO book with more than 3,500 pages across 7 volumes, including over 50 pages on my own experiences and 300 more documenting the experiences of people I know personally. So yes, I do propose the reality of this phenomenon. But that doesn't mean everything you see is true. Quite the opposite. There's another point I'd like to address. Ufology has, for the most part, been addicted to examining cases in isolation, as if each one could stand alone without context. That's deeply disruptive. It prevents us from seeing patterns of behavior, which are essential if we want to understand the phenomenon as a whole. I come from a background in cultural production. I've been involved with art, literature, and philosophy. So for me, things like pattern recognition often matter more than isolated details. In literature and art, we observe the style of the artist. Just to give an example, if we're studying The Tempest by Shakespeare, the student wouldn't just read that one play. They'd study most of Shakespeare's other works to understand his universe, his lexicon, and his style. Not only that, they'd also read contemporaries like Marlowe and look into the cultural habits of the time to understand the full context. That seems most logical to me. Now, let's finally return to our friend Skinny Bob. Why do we study him in isolation? Knowing that the author released 3 other videos, and yet they're barely ever mentioned, wouldn't those provide important clues about the author's true intention and their relationship to ufology itself? Let's examine the first video, shall we? We begin with a UFO. The footage feels urgent, we hear the noise of a projector, and the visuals appear to be filmed on a 6mm camera. It's shaky, which adds to the sense of immediacy. Then we cut to a second scene, what appears to be a dead body, presumably an alien. But even at this stage, we can already notice a few important things. The scene is very well crafted, clearly by someone who knows how to use software like After Effects. Whoever is behind it understands how to set the tone, how to create atmosphere. The result is mysterious, eerie, and dramatic. The alien body could be a doll, but it also resembles a rigid, lifeless form, and it's disturbing in just the right way. So, from this first clip, 2 key points emerge. First, whoever is behind this has access to real resources. This is a polished production, far from ordinary. Second, it's most likely that using physical models here. No need for full CGI at this stage. The next video is called Tape 06, titled Family Vacation. It begins by explaining that a group of aliens were in contact with high-level intelligence services in the US, a direct reference to the mythology surrounding Muroc and Holloman Air Force Base. The text says that the aliens didn't allow themselves to be filmed and that the treaty was under threat. This taps directly into a well-loved theme in ufology. So right away, we have a strong element of confabulation. The video is playing with the expectations and familiar narratives of ufologists. After the text, we get a few seconds of footage. We see very thin, small beings with oversized heads walking toward the camera. Again, the same sense of urgency and eeriness is present. However, the images seem quite compatible with the bodies of children wearing large masks. That said, the quality of the masks is impressive, which lends a surprising degree of credibility to the scene. Then there is a third video, a short statement assuring that the material is bona fide. It claims the footage is not part of any film or video game and that the sources will not reveal themselves. On the surface, that makes sense, but this kind of language is also deeply rooted in the UFO climate of the time, especially in the post-MJ12 era, when anonymous leaks, unverifiable sources, and dramatic disclaimers became standard tropes. So once again, we find a strong element of confabulation, reinforcing the mythology and mirroring the expectations of the community. And finally, we arrive at the masterpiece, the Skinny Bob video. Once again, it begins with text. hinting at disclosure, secret leaked documents, and the idea that this material is being released for the benefit of the people. The language, unusually truncated and formal, isn't far off from the style found in the MJ12 documents. This serves as the preparation, the setup for the climax. Then we watch the video itself. There are 3 scenes. The first is a close-up of the face. We see it move, perform several subtle motions, and even the eyes shift naturally. The second scene is a camera tilt upward. We see what appears to be the same character as in the previous video. A childlike body with small, precise finger movements and the same highly detailed mask. The third image is more atmospheric, a kind of mood-building shot. It seems to show a sort of petri dish or biological container presented with eerie casualness. The atmosphere across the whole package is unlike anything we have been exposed to before. It plays directly with our expectations, and that's precisely why it succeeded so well.
The discussion.
Whenever I see discussions about Skinny Bob on UFO forums, there are always those annoying users who confidently declare that this is CGI, as if that settles everything. But they never ever present a single example from that time period that even mildly resembles this level of production. Say what you will, but if Skinny Bob is a hoax, and I believe it is, then the people behind it are highly skillful. Just the fact that there are so many elements of confabulation in the accompanying texts, along with the probable use of masks, dolls, and various post-production techniques, strongly points to fabricated work, and that should prompt us to look elsewhere. Now, I'd like to propose a model, the kind of artist who could have created something like Skinny Bob, and I'll present a few examples to support that.
Grace Cunningham.
Best known for his work in experimental video and music visuals, has several pieces that bear uncanny similarities to Skinny Bob in tone, style, and technique. Chris Cunningham started his career as a model maker and prosthetic makeup artist. That foundation in physical effects and practical creature design could very well explain how Skinny Bob's face and movements were achieved. Skinny Bob looks like a blend of high-level practical effects, subtle puppetry or animatronics, and minimal post-production enhancements. In Come to Daddy, we see children running around wearing distorted Richard D. James masks. The result is deeply uncanny, blending innocence with something eerie and otherworldly. Now compare that to the scene in Tape A06, where 3 aliens are seen wandering toward the camera. The resemblance is striking, not just visually, but emotionally. Both scenes play with scale, with childlike proportions and exaggerated heads. This strengthens the idea that the Skinny Bob footage could have been made using similar methods. Physical masks, carefully directed performance, and stylized presentation. Now take a look at Cunningham's Mental Wealth PlayStation commercial, the one with the girl whose face is disturbingly elongated and distorted. It's widely believed that an effect like mesh distortion was applied to re-engineer her facial proportions, creating an uncanny valley effect. This kind of digital manipulation, subtle, targeted, and integrated with live-action footage, could very well explain how Skinny Bob's facial proportions were achieved. His face appears anatomically strange but almost real, as if something familiar was pushed just slightly out of alignment. Again, this supports the idea that the work wasn't simply CGI in the modern sense, but rather a hybrid practical effects enhanced by post-production distortion. Finally, take Rubber Johnny. It's grotesque, intense, and full of disorienting visuals, but what stands out is the complexity of the character design. Here, we're not just dealing with masks, we're looking at a whole fusion of prosthetics, lighting, digital editing, and performance, creating something truly otherworldly. What Rubber Johnny proves is that far more elaborate and expressive characters than Skinny Bob were already being created by artists with the right skill set and vision. even with technology available in the early 2000s. Skinny Bob is absolutely within the realm of what was possible at the time, especially for someone coming from a background like Cunningham's. Skinny Bob is not only viable, it's replicable. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that Chris Cunningham is the author of Skinny Bob, but I do believe that whoever made it had aesthetic sensibilities and technical skills similar to his and was possibly influenced by his work. We're likely dealing with a small crew or even a single creator with a background in practical effects, prosthetics, and post-production, capable of crafting something this evocative, which raises the question of motivation. I can envisage two main possibilities. The first is personal motivation. There could be many, such as to mimic something intriguing. However, I can only envisage this possibility if the artist and the crew had already the means at their disposal, meaning the masks and the prosthetics were already laying there. So not impossible. The second possibility is more unsettling, that Skinny Bob is a commissioned artifact, part of a long-running disinformation campaign, a piece crafted not to reveal but to distract, to keep people arguing over authenticity rather than seeking real contact or listening to actual witnesses. In that sense, it functions much like the MJ12 documents, endlessly debated, never resolved, and ultimately a sinkhole for time, energy, and attention. Audio the Bob. And here let me just say that there was a short element that escaped me, but also put in the direction of strong confabulation, but could also be a sort of misdirection. The use of the KGB symbol implies that the case is Soviet or was leaked by the Soviets, but the cases are American, so the author had no deeper understanding of Soviet ufology.
Conclusion.
In conclusion, the pieces have high levels of confabulation, playing with the expectancy of the viewers and the tropes of UFO leaks. We never had any leaks of this sort that are real. The footage, with great investment and technique, can comfortably be replicated. What makes us believe that this is a hoax? I understand that there's a lot of emotional investment in the Skinny Bob case. It's mysterious, beautifully crafted, and for many, it feels like the closest we've come to seeing the real thing. I don't blame anyone for wanting it to be true. There are many other cases, well documented, credible, and often ignored, that deserve our attention far more than a stylish riddle. I also understand that some whistleblowers have hinted at the veracity of the Skinny Bob footage. But at this point in time, I find it strange how readily people accept their word. Whistleblowers, more often than not, have turned out to be wrong, misleading, or still entangled in the very intelligent structures they claim to oppose. So it's rather counterintuitive to follow their lead without a high degree of caution. With that, we end our peering into this paradox. Hope to see you back here soon.
We cling to Bob's as he is intriguing, but the real thing doesn't pose. It slips past on the corner of your eye, and then linger unwanted.